a little long, so let me go ahead and let me get us started, and other people will jump in as they can. Please go ahead and mute yourselves, and I will. Alan will let you check in when you can, and I will open us with prayer. Let us pray. Blessed and loving Lord, we thank you for all these people surrounding us tonight who are interested as we are in sharing your love with people who don't fully understand it yet. It's a tremendous, wonderful, just fulfilling ministry you have given us. And it's also a bit on the scary side. It is about the greatest responsibility we can be handed, which is to introduce you to other people. Now we ask you to encourage us, empower us, strengthen us, and give us just the right words we need when we do have those opportunities. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And let's see, where's my screen share? There it is. I will share my screen. I don't need to do that. And put the slideshow on. All right. Let's get rid of that. Okay. As I said, we're going to be flying through some things tonight, but I wanted to begin. If you've been with me before, you know this slide because I think it's one of the more important ones, is you're not going to be able to do everything I mentioned. It's just not possible, no matter how big your church. So what you need to do is pick the one thing that you find within your context seems to be the one that fits you the best. Maybe two, but a limited number. And then you don't overwhelm yourself, because if you overwhelm yourself, you're more likely to stop and do nothing. Better to do one thing well than two or three or four things poorly. And I want you to know you're never alone. And I mean that. I'm here for you. The only time I'll be a little bit upset is if you do stop because you didn't ever get around to asking me a question. So please remember that. You're not in this by yourself. If you would like help brainstorming priorities, remember I said I'm going to tell you a lot of things of which you can only pick one or two. If you need help brainstorming your priorities, just ask. We can find a time to get together. So I'm going to give you a very quick summary of what we'll talk about in more depth next week because time is so short. We have Ash Wednesday's the middle of February. It's hard to get a lot done between now and then, and we need that extra week. If I waited till next week, would not allow you enough time. So we will talk about them for a few moments. The first step is always to intrigue people into wanting to know more about you, and we're going to talk about that mainly tonight. You may accomplish a great deal while seeing no new people immediately. That's something to keep in mind. In the biblical image, you are plowing the field. Harvest comes much later. All of these, and I'll talk about them, great opportunities for press releases, include the TV on that. Local weekly papers usually have the best chance, but they need a good press release and lots of lead time. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. And what I'm suggesting is you take this week to decide what you will do because you're not going to do it all. So the first thing I want to mention is burning of palms for Ash Wednesday. Now, different clergy get the ashes for Ash Wednesday in different ways. Most behind their house, in a grill or something, very privately. Some people buy them off the internet. But I argue this is the most powerful spiritual time of the entire year, in the sense that last year we took these palms and we waved them around as a sign of our connection to Jesus, of our willingness to follow Jesus. And now we burned them in a sign of how we didn't live up to that. So I'm suggesting you make it a public event, not Sunday morning, because Sunday morning you're unlikely to bring anybody new in. But this is a great opportunity for a press release. It's a great opportunity for TV because there's great visuals. It's an opportunity to explain Ash Wednesday, which is something most people don't understand, even a lot of Episcopalians. Reels, the little short vertical videos, are perfect for all this stuff. And this is a perfect one for that. Very visual. Again, it's likely to get lots of attention, but few, if any, brand new people. Don't let that worry you. That's the intent, is to open the door, to plow the field, as I was saying. Okay, your Shrove Tuesday pancake dinner. If you want new families, tell the mother you're going to give them you're going to feed their kids for free one night. I know it's sometimes used as a fundraiser, but it's most impactful when others pay and guests are free. So ask members to sponsor a guest family. If there's too much resistance to just letting them be free, ask a member to, in fact, if you'll let me know, I will send you $20 to sponsor 2 families. Just let me know, I'll send you a check. The whole question of why pancakes at church, that title all by itself is an intention grabber. It's great for a post, a reel, a news release. Again, TV is a good possibility, very visual thing going on. You will probably not have dozens of guests, but I really would expect to have a couple or 3 or 4. You want to have a system to get the contact information, and we're going to talk about that a lot. Ashes to Go and Ash Wednesday. There's a lot of debate over Ashes to Go. Some people love it, some people hate it. This is when you go out on a street corner or some public place and you offer to do a very abbreviated imposition of ashes service. Usually it's just a simple prayer and then the ashes. This is my personal attitude. I'd rather have that minute or 2 with a person than have them not show up at all. That's why I like it. And people wonder what Ash Wednesday is all about. And people are most likely to read your post, watch your video, whatever, when they have a question you're answering. So this is great. And then for inactive Roman Catholics, Ash Wednesday is a big deal, but they don't know where to go. They don't want to go back to the church they haven't attended since last Ash Wednesday or longer, but they'd like to be involved. So tell them they can come to you and emphasize their welcome at communion. This is for the main service, obviously, not the to go. If you do Ashes to Go, pick a public place. One of the churches around here does it in the center of town. Another one was at a YMCA for early exercisers. On the street in front of your church works if it is a busy street. Considering offering blessed ashes to nursing home chaplains, hospital chaplains, military chaplains. It's a good ministry just to make the offer, even if they don't take you up on it, and it makes a connection. Again, have a system to offer contact cards. We never want to be pushy, but we do want to offer them. Then Lenten programs themselves. Most of us do Lenten programs, and most of them are boring. The program itself might be fine, but the title is boring, and that's what you come to, is the title, the lead image that tells you whether or not this is worth your time. Remember, we're asking people to invest the most important thing they have, and that's their time. It's part of their life. They don't think it's going to be worth their time. So we've got to explain to them why it's a good use of their time, and they aren't going to read 2 paragraphs or a page. They may read the title. Find something that tacks into people. One book, if you haven't already come up with one that I really like, is What is the Least You Can Believe and Still Be a Christian? That title alone will grab people's attention, and it's very easy to present. I always stress I don't agree with all the author says. The idea is not to present answers, but rather to encourage questions. If at all possible, make it hybrid, in person and online. Oh, I forgot to say, if you haven't already, please mute yourself. So today, we just went over some immediate things to do. All of those will be expanded upon next week. Most important thing we'll do today is talk about our real goals, not the ones we normally think about. I want to touch on my understanding of evangelism versus pre-evangelism. We'll look at the challenges we face and the opportunities God is giving us. And most of the time we'll be presented on an overview of the process that I recommend. I know the questions will work. Well, with about a 90% certainty, I can show you how to bring people to and sometimes into your doors. So the goal for all we do, this is a surprise for a lot of people, is not to increase attendance or budget. The reason is those are selfish goals. Those are about us. And Jesus never talked about either of them. Our goal is to help people grow closer to God. If we show God's love by word and example, some people will want to associate with us, and therefore those side benefits will happen. Having more people to help with the ministry, like the food pantry, for example, more attendance on Sunday or Friday night, income increases. But we begin by helping people grow closer to God. Again, you won't do everything. And I know you're going to get tired of seeing this slide, but I think it's really critical. The language we use shapes us. It's important for us to remember we never have a visitor. We only have guests. Let me suggest an image for you. There's somebody you don't know lives down the street. You send them a postcard inviting them to your barbecue, and they come. How do you treat them? You treat them differently than you would somebody that's been at your house all the time. You treat them as guests. You give them that extra attention. That's what we want to do. And we don't greet, we host. And we'll talk about the difference of those two. But the greeter is the person, they walk in and say, hi, good morning, here's your bulletin. A host is someone that tries to engage them in just a moment or two of conversation. If they need to find the restroom, if they need to find the nursery, if they're wondering about how the service goes, the host is there to help them be more comfortable. And part of being more comfortable is we try to avoid or explain our jargon. And we have, Lord, do we have a lot of jargon. And again, that shapes us. So the either or is, do we truly want people to understand and be comfortable? Or are we going to take the attitude, if they're good enough, they will come back and learn? Notice I'm not saying we can never use these words. I'm just saying explain them when we do. And then rather than using the word church, because church is a building or an institution, that's if you say church to somebody out on the street, they're going to think building or institution. Use spiritual home, or more often than not, I'll use congregation. People want to associate with other people. They don't want to associate with a building. Now, there's times when you have a really beautiful building and you want to talk it up, and that's fine. That's wonderful. But when you're talking about long-term relationship, it's with the people they want. Language you'll hear me use, I use previously churched people for whom church was important at some point in their lives. Duns, D-O-N-E-S, is the way they're a lot of times explained, or a lot of times they're identified. I differentiate them from the never churched, people who have never been in church on any regular basis. And there's more and more of those around. Now, if you were dealing one-on-one with somebody and knew which they were, you would talk to them differently. If they'd spent most of their life in church but been away for 10 years, different from somebody who'd never been in church. But we're talking about the whole community. So what we have to do is we have to focus on the never churched, because if we visualize that person as our target, if we touch them, we will touch most previously churched persons. Evangelism, my definition, a series of deep conversations about spirituality. Think about that for a moment. It requires trust. The listener has to trust the speaker. Now, I personally believe every human being was created by God with a desire to know God better. Therefore, if we help in this process, they will want to be in relationship with us. But if we don't help, there's really no reason for them to connect with us or to stay with us. Pre-evangelism, is the process of building a trusting relationship that allows evangelism to happen, and eventually creating the atmosphere that allows you to have those conversations. And what happens is too often we jump in by inviting people to worship or to a Bible study without thinking about the fact they don't really trust us. They don't trust Christians. They don't trust Christianity. We're going to be talking about that quite a bit as we go through tonight. So if God did create all human beings with a desire to grow closer to God, why aren't our churches full? And the answer is we're not trusted. Churches and Christians are not trusted. We have a very bad reputation among many people. And I hope he's overemphasizing that. Hope you're thinking that, but I'm not. And I'll show you why in just a minute. We also have the problem of habits and schedules. We were talking beforehand how the middle week service might actually be more attractive to many people than the Sunday morning because they're doing something else on Sunday morning. I don't know what it is, but they have a habit, they have a schedule. And to ask them to give up half of Sunday, basically, that's what it comes down to, no matter what time your opening service is asking a lot. A couple hours on Wednesday night or Thursday night or Friday night might not be asking as much. I won't go over these. You've all seen them, the announcements in the news about different ways in which churches and pastors have abused people. Right now, we're really running into it that churches on both sides of the aisle are being dominated by politics. But this is the one I really wanted to show you. This is a survey that was done by our national church, or paid for by a national church, by a reputable company, reputable firm. And the question they were asked is up here. Well, why won't I do that? There it goes. What characteristics do you associate with Christians in general? What characteristics do you associate with Christians in general? Now, the non-religious, remember I talked about those who are no connection to the church. That's kind of where you'd expect it to be. 55% say we're hypocritical. 54% say we're judgmental. 50% we're self-righteous. Okay, but see how hard it is to have a conversation with somebody who walks into the conversation thinking you are hypocritical, judgmental, and self-righteous. You're not going to have a very good chance getting that conversation started. But the really scary one is this one on the other side. It's scary to me. This is what Christians think about Christians in general. And 57% say we're giving, 56% compassionate, 50%, But look at that again. That means 43% of Christians would not call Christians giving. 44% would not say, 44% of the Christians surveyed would not say Christians are compassionate. We have a bad reputation even among ourselves. Now, what's happening, of course, is they're imagining the worst that they've ever known of churches and Christians. And that's absolutely true. I mean, that's real life. And if we've got to remember, those images are real. This is a exercise you might want to try sometime in coffee hour or whatever. Just take these key words and maybe use Post-it notes. Ask people to write down some way they can explain why your church is not hypocritical or abusive or whatever. Stay away from the friendly one. Just don't allow discussion, because every church in town is the friendliest church in town. And if you give people the option of talking about how friendly you are, that's all they'll talk about. Make them dig deeper. So our challenge is, would you associate with those people? I mean, the people I just described, would you want to associate, and would you expect others to do so? Because that's what they think when your church is mentioned. If we say St. Smithon's Church, what they hear is the word church. And the question becomes now, is there any hope? I believe there is. I think we've got research that shows there is, if we make the effort, because people can distrust and even despise church or even Christian, but love your congregation and individuals. And that's where we're going. We're not going to try to change everybody's opinion about every church, because frankly, those opinions about them being arrogant and self-righteous is absolutely right on in some cases. We're not going to dispute that. Rather, we're going to talk about us. So, the feeling that a lot of people have is, well, okay, but there's very few people who are open to talking to Christians. And what I want to do is look at the data. Roughly, and you get lots of different answers, but they all fall into a general ballpark. About 10% of Americans do not believe in any kind of higher power. About mid-20s, something in that range, are in a spiritually fulfilling home. They have a spiritual home that is fulfilling to them. So that word means about roughly a third of Americans are established in their position. But that means 2/3 of Americans believe in God, but do not have a spiritual home. So, broad sense again, about half of those, so about a third of Americans, really have no particular interest in deepening their spiritual life. They say they believe in God. They might even say they pray from time to time, but that's kind of the limit of it. But that leaves us about a third of Americans who are willing to talk to us. They're not anxious. It's not high on their priority list. They're not likely to come running into Sunday service or any others. They're very cautious, very untrusting for good reason. But if they feel respected, and if it touches on their life concerns, if they're respected and their life concerns, they may be interested enough to participate. This is another survey I just go through very quickly. It came from a different source, the Barna Group, which does good research. They do good research. They're a very evangelical group. So you have to be careful of the language if you're using any of their materials. For example, for them, discipleship is inviting somebody to church. That's kind of the limit of what they consider discipleship. Whereas we use a much broader understanding of the word. But the research is basically pretty good if you're careful like that. And you'll see they basically divide roughly into thirds, basically what I was saying. You have about 29% they've got have a very low openness to spirituality. That would include those who don't believe in any higher power at all, and some others. About 32% have a moderate interest. Those are the ones that are, if you will, our target, about a third of Americans. They're the ones that are open, have some openness to spiritual conversation. And then about a third or a little more have a high openness. And that would include those who already have a fulfilling spiritual home, and a few that are anxiously looking. That last group is probably the smallest of all. Because if somebody's anxiously looking, chances are they will find a spiritual home fairly quickly. There's enough options out there. So what potential is there for your church? I know that's what you're thinking about. Well, again, about 1/3 of the population are willing to talk. Near your church, about 20-minute travel time. And again, the very, very urban areas and very rural areas, that's going to vary some, but something in that ballpark of about a 20-minute travel time. You can ask yourself, how far do people in your congregation travel? And you always have a few that are coming from a long distance away, but do the bulk of them come from? That pretty much tells you what your area is. Well, how many is that? You got two sources of information, and I'd be happy to help you if you want to dig into any of them. The Nazarene source, the one on top, is actually the information is a little older, but the ability to use it's a much more user-friendly site than the Episcopal Church's site. The Episcopal Church's site is good for some things, but for what we're talking about, it's very difficult to use. But again, let me know, and I'll be happy to help you in any way I can. So key point number 2, if people really wanted to attend, if all they needed was to know what time your service starts, they would have been there last Sunday. And yet a lot of us think we've invited people by putting the worship times on our sign outside. Now, I'm not saying that's unimportant, but that's one of the last things people need to know. They need to know why they want to be with you, why they want to be with the congregation. Only then do the worship times make any difference. Up to that point, they don't care. So we need, and this is the word you'll hear me use over and over again, intrigue them enough so they want to know the worship times. And what we're doing is asking, how do we use this opportunity the Holy Spirit is providing to help reach those people with those negative impressions? I think a 3-stage process helps me think it through. There's no magic to this. It's just, my first degree is in engineering, and I think that kind of thoughts, kind of organizationally. Stage 1 is the intrigue stage. That's when people get to know us, like us, and trust us. Now, most of this is non-personal. Probably 98% of it is social media, it's newspaper articles, it's, different things along those lines. The online services are kind of in between the intrigue stage and the interact stage. When people just turn on and keep anonymous, they're in the intrigue stage. They start to get a little more active, then they're in the interact stage, even though we may not be personally connected to them in the sense we can shake their hand. That's the next stage, is when we begin to interact with people. Maybe shake their hand, maybe just exchange email messages or whatever. Then when they get to the point where they may feel comfortable enough, trusting enough to actually relate with us, that's where we're aiming. That's where we're going. But you have to go through the other steps first. The problem we run into is there'll be people in the congregation, in the leadership, on the vestry, who expect instant results. They think that, we ran 2 ads and, nothing happened, so this is a total waste of time. It takes a long time. We're changing long-held opinions, impressions, habits, schedules. You don't do that overnight. But what we do a lot of times, in both online and in person, is we ghost people. Yeah, they come into our presence, again, either online or in person, but it makes no difference. If you were to ask yourself 15 minutes after the service over about those people, you don't remember them. Or if you do remember them, 2 weeks later, you haven't contacted them. You've ghosted them. So chronologically, the process is what I showed: intrigue, interact, relate. But as far as importance, it's the exact opposite. Relate, interact, intrigue. If we don't build a relationship, then we pretty much have wasted most of our effort in the first 2 steps. So let's start with the relate. We're going to talk about them in that order. Relate. What that means is regular, consistent, friendly, personal, gentle, engaging, short communication. Think about this as building a friendship with somebody. You don't ignore them for a month and a half and then come back if it's building stage. Once you've known them all your life, you can do that. But if somebody brand new, you've got to be in contact with them. And that's not to say come to church next week. That's not building a relationship. That is basically telling them what to do. We will use that on occasion, but not all the time. Email, very unlikely to accomplish these goals, primarily because so few emails are open. Typically, and the research on this is just piled high, there's lots and lots of research, about 20 to 25% of emails are opened. And no research on how many actually read it if they click on it. Open simply means they've clicked on it. Texting is a bit more difficult, but more likely to be effective because it's seen at least 90% of the time. And since it's so short, most people actually read it. They know it's going to be short. More difficult because you have to be concise. But again, the people will pay attention to it. I'll show you how to use first names. It just is a way, if you get a text that says, "Hi, Sam," you're going to glance at it. So all that said, if all you have is somebody's email address, use it. Use what you got. I'm not going to go over these in length, but I sent you the slides. But these are just some texts we've used, and you'll see over in the left-hand side in the blue the reason for what we were trying to accomplish. There's ones where we sent out very beginning, first time we had their information. We talk about things that are fun. We talk about ministries we do or services we do. Ask for donation. That's possible. I wouldn't do it very often, but I think most people expect to get asked. Then specific information about the church. Again, if you have a fascinating history or building or whatever, excuse me, ministry, and then some inspirational things. And I'll show you the sources for a lot of those in just a second. Somebody will tell you texting is too invasive. I have no idea why it's more invasive than emails, but that's a whole nother discussion. And not really, because you're giving them all kinds of opportunities to opt out. Your contact card, and I'll show you an example of one in a second, should always give them the option to not receive text from you. Now, I do strongly recommend the opt-out option. I know I do not want to, how's it phrased? It's phrased. Do you want to not receive additional mailings from us? Not the opt-in, because biggest bulk of people, they're kind of sitting in the middle, maybe yeah, maybe no. And if they've got a check to say, yeah, put me on another list, they're not going to do it. Make them check to not get on the list. Most paid systems will take care of a lot of this. They'll send a notice asking if they want to receive text. Also, every text that's sent out under any paid system, and you almost have to use a paid system. You're going to have, I certainly hope you're going to have so many, it won't be possible to do one at a time. Every text should offer that stop option under the law. But the bottom line to me about is it invasive or not, if people get upset because you offer to send them an occasional text once a week or less about things happening at the church, if that makes them upset, they didn't want to be involved with you anyway. I mean, I don't worry about them. They weren't coming back. I think a good way to evaluate how well the efforts are going is the question, are they still connected to a church a year after their first interaction? So the question would be, how many 2022 Christmas guests are active today? Christmas guests from 13 months ago. How many of them are active today? Which leads to the question, do you even know who was there as a guest in 2022? Typically, less than 10% of first-time service guests are connected to the church 1 year later, less than 10%. And most of them are the ones who were previously churched. And that's because we ghosted them. Many times we hear that people check out the service online before deciding to attend. So essential, if you want to accomplish anything, is to get their contact information. That's absolutely, without that, you have absolutely no influence on the decision on whether or not to connect with your church. They might show back up, but you can't do anything to encourage them. Name and cell phone number is best. And I have plenty of information, some of which I'll show you tonight, but ask me, I can send you anything you need. Asking for too much means fewer people will respond. Now, I usually do ask for name, cell phone number, email, and zip code. Those four things. Email, because that's kind of expected. And zip code gives me some indication of where they live. Not much, but at least I know they're not from 3 states away. Never ask, what church are you from? I mean, that can be insulting. I mean, think about it. If they haven't been in church any time in their life, or they haven't been in church for 30 years, that's not a nice question. Never names and ages of kids. Nowadays, that's considered pretty creepy. Now, if you're standing there talking to the parents and you got a little quick, short-term relationship going, and you want to ask about, do your kids want to go to Sunday school? Let me tell you which Sunday school to go. That's different. But to have an anonymous form and ask for the names and ages of kids, no. Physical address. I kind of sorry about this one, but it really is true. People are so concerned about privacy. Again, the zip code gives you that hint at their location. And if you get far enough in the relationship, you need their physical address. That's when you get it. So, in summary, that we need to follow up. Without that, we're wasting our time. The key is the regular, friendly communication. I recommend texting. I recommend using a paid service. They're not terribly expensive. It's about $30 a month for most of them. Some of your online giving programs also have the texting available at a lower cost. Tell your story in their text. Now, and I didn't really talk about this, after they've been receiving texts from you for, let's say, 2 months, what do they now know about your church they didn't know at the beginning? Do they know about your ministries? Do they know about your focus? Do they know the good things going on? There's lots of good free material available. I'll show you some of them. I recommend if you're just starting out with this, go ahead and reach out to the people that you've not seen in a long time. And I think I had one on those pages I listed. I can't remember now. But anyway, just say something along the lines of, we have joined the modern era with texting. We will send you occasional information about what's going on at your church. And then if they opt out, they opt out. But I think you'll be shocked how many don't, how many people continue to want to be connected to the church, that if you stopped them on the street and asked where they went to church, they'd name your church, even though you hadn't seen them in 10 years. I'm going to say it again. Please slow down a second, relax just a little bit, and remember that you can't do all of this. And I'll give you my recommendations for where to focus at the very end. And there's my email address and phone number. You need me, reach out. Please. I not only don't I mind it, I enjoy working with people. And if you like help brainstorming, again, reach out. All right, that was the intrigue stage. Now we're going to the relate stage, excuse me. That was the relate stage. We're going to turn to the interact stage. And this is a kind of a thought process I encourage you to try to get your head around. It takes a while to train yourself to think this way. But particularly in your leadership, your vestry, your committee meetings, if somebody will raise this for everything you have going on, ask the question, how can I meet new people through this activity? It doesn't matter what it could be allowing the neighborhood association to meet in your fellowship hall. How can I, without being aggressive, how can I use that to meet new people? And not just see them or even greet them, but meet them. So for example, get that to a second. Goals for an activity should be have first people know about it, then have people attend, have people glad they came. Those are pretty obvious. But have people learn about your church. I'll be willing to bet you haven't really thought about that one. And then have people leave their contact information. So the question is, how many people came to your last yard sale, bazaar, or similar activity? How many you didn't know did you see or greet? By that, I mean, they're walking in the door, you say, hi, glad you're here. How many did you actually meet? How many are now actively ministering with you? And it is possible for people to make the leap from yard sale buyer to active member. That is possible. Again, it takes time, it takes effort, but it's certainly more than possible. Because we want people to learn about your church. And then another very important question. What do people leave knowing about your church they did not know when they arrived? What do they know now they didn't know before? If all they know is where the parking lot is or the bus stop is and where the front door is, if that's the extent of what they know about you, then they don't know anything. Having a couple brochures around is good, but it's not enough. Rather, think about how you can, I'll show you some examples, how you can do things in the midst of what you were doing. So if you're having a bazaar or yard sale, you can have little booths or banners or something that explains something about your church. So as they're walking by, they learn something about you. Now, it's important to recognize you have a very short period of time, less than half a second, and it has to be something that's visible and understandable from 6 feet away. You have to grab their attention. They're not there to look at that. That's not why they've come. So you've got to grab their attention, intrigue them enough so they'll spend a little bit of time with it. Assertive, never aggressive. We're Episcopalians. We're not supposed to be aggressive. But at the same time, we tend never to be assertive. We stand back and say, well, if they want to come, I guess they can come. No, we need to be more direct on that while still being loving, caring, gentle, humble, all those good kind of words. So, for example, this is a banner we put together for a Lutheran church. And if you notice here, God's work our hands is a phrase the Lutherans use fairly often. That's the half a second. That's where you're hoping that you notice it's middle line, it's right on their eye level. That's what grabs their attention. They say, oh, not consciously thinking it through. And then they start looking at the other things to see what that means. And then on the right-hand side, you see the banner being used at a flower sale. Again, it's in the background. I suspect most people at least glanced at it. It's there. It's assertive in the sense it's visible. It's not aggressive. It's not in your face. Then we also did photos. Now the fonts on these photos are wrong. They should have been much bolder. And you live and learn. The first one on the left-hand side is about the food pantry for that church. The two on the right-hand side, the upper one is about the youth group. The lower one is about the music. They have very wonderful music. Notice they're high enough so people standing in front of them don't block the whole thing. An awful lot of times people do things like this and they put them on a table, and the moment somebody stands in front of the table, nobody else can see what's going on. Can't even see it's there. So the point was made under a second. The font, as I said, should have been bolder. Now you can use these type of things at any event. This particular church, the banner is up in the narthex at all times. So people coming in for a blood drive, for voting, neighborhood associating meeting, 12-step programs, yard sale, they all have the opportunity to see that. I know the first thought on the photos is, oh, they'll be terribly expensive to print. They really aren't, even anymore. Excuse me, even at a print shop. But also engineers, architects, graphic designers, anybody like that has a large printer that can do this. And even if there's nobody in your congregation, there's a good chance there's one within a couple blocks or somewhere in town. And if you went and said, look, would you please print a couple photos for us? They'd be happy to do it. And those photos, by the way, came out of a iPhone. iPhone photos blow up just fine. So how do we get their contact information? Remember, the first thing we looked at was the relate stage, which depended on getting the contact information. We want to be assertive, never aggressive. If you've taken stewardship programs, you know the phrase, you get nothing when you ask for nothing. I think it's very important, like at a bazaar or some kind of community event like that, every 15, 20 minutes to have somebody take up the microphone and say, we would love to send you occasional updates about things happening around here. Please complete one of the cards you will find wherever. Now, notice how that's phrased. Most of the time, what we do is we phrase it, please complete one of the cards so we can send you. That means we're asking them for something and then telling them why they want to do it. And we start by asking them for, by the time we get to the second half of that, they've already decided not to do it. Rather, we tell them what we're giving them. We would love to send you a cake. We're giving you something to achieve that. Just fill out this form. A great way to do this is prizes at various events. For example, $5 off at the bazaar. Anything you buy, you fill out one of these contact cards, and that's your entry form. And I know the bazaar organizers are just going to go, oh my God, we're in this to make money. That's fine. Find somebody who will donate $5 to provide as a gift to somebody else. Have the checkout cards, have the cards available at checkout and offered to everybody. This next one, I really feel very strongly about, and it's very, I almost hate to call it effective, but it is. At every activity, whatever you are doing, a prayer booth is appropriate. All right. We are people of prayer. Offering people the opportunity to pray is very appropriate. You could even do one away from the voting, away from the line, but where it's seen, but not in the way. If people want to walk over before or after voting and have a word of prayer, why not? Give people the option of praying right then and then getting a contact card, or use a contact card to fill out a prayer request. Not just for the prayer request, but for any of these, follow up within 24 hours with anybody who leaves information. Do not ghost them. Just a thank you for being with us is all you need. I like the phrase honoring us. Thank you for honoring us with your prayer request. I think that's the way I feel. Somebody asked me to pray for them. They have honored me. And anyway, that's my thinking. One of your challenges is, as the bazaar, the yard sale, or whatever is closing down, everybody is quickly putting up the tables and throwing things away and trying to get out. It'd be very easy to lose the cards. So make sure you got a good system for picking them up. All right, this is an example of the kind of thing I recommend. On the right-hand side is just kind of the specifics of what I recommend and why. And on the left-hand side, this was set up to print 4 to a page. I have it in the Microsoft Word format. If you want it, just ask me and I can send it to you, and you just modify your specifics. This is my favorite system. This is a large church in Greensboro, North Carolina. They just put some cup hooks on their pews and hang the invite or the contact card on those. That means they're available at all times. They're not only available on Sunday, they're available at the wedding, at the funeral, at the neighborhood concert. There's that opportunity there at all times. Now, yes, absolutely. Majority of them will be used to write notes on. The second largest use will be for kids to draw pictures on. No question about it. So, there's a few extra dollars there spent and a little bit of work making sure they're hanging every Sunday. But if you just get a couple or 3 or 4 of them a year, it's more than worth the effort, particularly if they come from non-Sunday activities. Think about that. If you had the time, the greatest number of unchurched people will be seen by the clergy is a funeral or a wedding. That's when you see that's the greatest number of unchurched people, and we reach out to them the least. How to do it without being aggressive. All right, for Sunday mornings, I recommend not focusing on the Narthex guest book. Have it for people expect it. But, and this is one an evangelical got at me on this one. I had to admit he was right. Asking people to fill out the book as they walk in is like asking for the restaurant rating before they've sat down and seen the menu. You know, again, somebody who's used to it, that they've been in church all their life, they'll expect that. Somebody who hasn't been, who's coming in, just barely decided to come, that could be a real turnoff. So instead, there's a great time in between the peace and the offertory. There's a few seconds there where everybody's still milling around, waiting for the organist to hit a key and get everybody to sit down again. Is a great time for the worship leader to invite people to fill out the form. And that I have a little example video there. There's a link to an example video there you'll see. And it's a great time for them to complete it and place it in the collection basket if you're still doing collection baskets. Again, try to phrase it as a gift. One thing I do wrong on that little video, I use the phrase new guest or first time, I think I use. Many people won't fill out this form until they've been there a couple or even 3 times. So new with us is a good way to phrase it. And I recommend using some QR codes. Always have them direct to the specific page that does what they need done. Gives them information, gives them the ability to fill out their contact information, whatever you're trying to accomplish. Don't make them jump around your website. You will lose 1/3 of the people for every jump they got to make. This is what I mean by a landing page. I love this one. This is one of my favorites of all time, done by a church out in Colorado. This was for their Blue Christmas, obviously, for the Blue Christmas service, but they could use a QR code, direct people to this, and it has all the information they need. And it's done in a very attractive way. And this is actually a graphic they used on Facebook and other places. They use it for posters. This was their graphic for the year. Very easy to do, just that simple page there. Again, follow up within 24 hours. The evangelicals say the people should get a text thanking them for attending the service on their way home. I think that is aggressive. I think, though, what I would do, what I have done, is write them before I leave church and just schedule it. You can schedule it to go out whenever you want. Schedule it for like 7 o'clock that night. It's still a prompt response, but it doesn't feel like you're on top of them that badly. So again, on the intrigue, what we want to do here is grab their attention and tell them our story. We got to get their attention so they'll listen to us for a moment. Key, many times that people get discouraged when things don't happen quickly. Business instructors will say a person needs to be touched by a product or a service, that they see it, they learn about it, whatever, multiple times before making a decision. And with our negative impressions people have, we need more touches. They need to see it more often than they would for something else. General principles, you need eye-catching graphics. You only have a half a second. You can use words to explain the graphic, but very few. A photo of people sitting around a table tells me nothing other than there's people there. But a few words like asking tough questions gets a lot across. Remember, your vast majority of the time, people will see this on a cell phone. So it's usually easier to create on the computer, but always check it on the cell phone. Things that are done outdoors, like banners or yard signs, they should be readable at 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, which means, again, you don't have much space for words. Remember what the first scene or slide on a video is all they will see unless it intrigues them. So that's the most important single thing you'll do, is what shows up when they first look. So tools. Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, I call them first tier tools because you put them in front of people. They don't have to come looking. Website, YouTube, Google Ads, all that are second tier tools. They must look for it. Your Facebook page and your Instagram page are second tier. The Facebook posts, the Instagram posts are first tier. you can get a lot of impact for free, and I'll be telling you how. But the advertising costs are fairly low. If you just do a broad posting, a broad ad, about a penny and a half per account that sees it is pretty much where it usually falls. It's easy to target people geographically, so you aren't promoting 20 miles away from your church. You can also focus on interests. So, for example, if you wanted to talk about a Christmas pageant, you could focus on parents. I have a training video there about how to get some of this stuff done. And always ask if you're still confused, you need any more help. Reels, the little short videos I've mentioned a couple times, are the thing to use right now. That's what YouTube is showing the most of. Nextdoor.com can be pretty good, but it needs to be phrased as a neighborly conversation. In other words, if you come across as a pure ad, they'll cut it. They won't show it. You just need to say something like, I'm so looking forward to the yard sale at church so I can buy things. Or something like that. Phrase it like you would talking to your neighbor. I'm going to focus on Facebook, but Instagram, most of them are pretty much the same. As I said, it'll be shown on a cell phone. People will leaf through it very quickly, so you have to grab their attention. A great way to expand your reach is Facebook groups. There are groups in your area. A lot of times it's what's happening in type of thing. They're a great way to reach out. And the thing to do is you go into I'll show you where in a second. That's easier than trying to explain it. These are some groups that were found in a suburb of Boulder, Colorado. And, just shows you the kind of things. But if you start looking, one has 7.4 thousand members, another 1.3 thousand. Now, a lot of those are overlaps. Same person is in both groups. That's okay. If people see your post more than once, nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. You also want to be looking for things, depending on your context, focused groups like LGBTQ or parents. So the question I know you're thinking is, how do I find enough people to do this all? Well, first, you can't do it all. But second of all, build a team. Usually better to ask for simple things, at least to start. Daughters of the King and Brotherhood of St. Andrew, their vows, particularly Daughters of the King, specifically say evangelism. Brotherhood of St. Andrews kind of hints at it. But also, if you've been to an Episcopal baptism, you have vowed to proclaim by word and example. So I think we can say, hey guys, this is what we're supposed to be about. Then shut-ins and partial shut-ins can do virtually everything I've talked about. If their problem is mobility or something like that, and there's a very, very, very good chance they're keeping in touch with their grandchildren through social media. And many of them who were active in the past and can no longer do things are looking for ways to help their church. Give them the opportunity. Again, focusing on Facebook. This is fairly new, but the @ signs and you may have used this or seen it. If you want to show a post to somebody in particular, make sure they see it. You put the @ sign, their name, and it'll go right to their right to their listing, right to their notifications. Well, you can do it to everybody in the group. The Facebook post you put on your church page is probably being seen by 20 to 40% of your people at most. Probably going to the pages of 20. Doesn't mean they've seen it. It means they had the opportunity to see it. If you use the @ sign, it'll get to almost everybody. Secondly, have a team committed to comment and share on posts. And again, it's a great thing for some of your shut-ins because Facebook wants to show things people are interested in. So if you put a post on your church page and 3 or 4 people comment and share about it, Facebook says, hey, this is interesting. let me show it to more people. Again, Reels, very good way to get out. Facebook events are a great way to get the word out. And I know churches that do the events even just for Sunday service. Nah, I don't know. That may be a little much, but certainly anything unusual in a Sunday service. I want to talk about the Reels just a little more. This is Meta is Facebook and Instagram, the parent company. They're trying to outdo TikTok. TikTok is basically Reels. So they're showing them to as many non-friends as possible. Your posts only go to your friends unless they're shared. The Reels go to a lot more people. And if you make sure to mention where you are and type both, say it and type it, there's a good chance it'll be shown near your church. I would suggest do a couple easy ones, do a couple real simple ones. Then you can start getting fancy. Keep it simple. And these tutorials are the best I know. They open with a commercial. Don't worry about it. On how to do the Reels, Instagram and Facebook, they're very much step by step. Jerry Potter does them. He's my go-to guy. He's my go-to guy. Most of his stuff is free. If you want to, if this intrigues you, you want to dig deeper in any of it, Google Jerry Potter in your question. I mentioned events. Holy Family in Laurel Springs, New Jersey uses Facebook events probably as well as anybody I know. But I just wanted to show you this, so how simple it is to do. And it gets shown to lots of people. And this one, 113 people actually responded. That's pretty good. That doesn't mean they showed up. It means they responded to the event post. But you get all this information, you get the location, you get all that kind of stuff. The other thing I mentioned just very briefly is memes. Basically little cartoon type things that you can do, and there are hundreds of them around. And if you Google Episcopal memes funny, you'll find lots of them. And that can be a way to grab people's attention, but then connect it to your church. So on this one, I say, join us in the Episcopal zone. Videos, let me start at the bottom there. The whole intention is to correct those negative impressions we talked about at the beginning. TriTank has some great ones on YouTube that you can just link to. What is the Episcopal Church? What is prayer? What is sin? And I can show you how to personalize them if you want, so that people are sure what church they're coming from. Then at the top, don't be afraid to do your own. In fact, I encourage you to do your own slideshow or video. Slideshows are easier. Probably want to keep it around 2 minutes, but a lot of times you can do a 90-second reel and also do it as a video. Maybe that's a little bit longer at the same time. You do one shot that's a little shorter and one that's a little longer. I strongly recommend you do the one, what is communion, meaning what is communion in this particular church? Not in a broad, gentle sense, but how do we do it? What does it look like? Because that's one of the big questions people have. Again, inactive Roman Catholics don't know they can come to your church. Right now, depending on where you are, there's a fair number of Methodists who are kind of looking around. I'm not into sheep stealing, but I'm also not into letting the sheep wander away and die. I have an instructional outline that's very easy to follow to do that. Introducing our clergy, I've got an outline for that. Again, particularly in smaller churches, people expect to know the clergy. And so we need to introduce ourselves. But then you want to talk about your ministries, feeding the hungry, serving the poor. I've got a whole series we'll talk about in 3 weeks, the days of Holy Week. Episcopal jargon could be a fun one to do, and it could be done as reels. Episcopal jargon volume 1, explain 3 or 4 words. Volume 2, volume 3. And you can use them multiple times. That's one of the nice things about these kind of things. You could have one about how you're feeding the hungry and show it every 3 months. That's fine. No problem. You want to, I talked about personalizing some of the videos. This is the kind of thing you can do just to get the information across. You've intrigued them enough. They want to have some more information. Give it to them. On the streaming services, most churches, we ghost those guests. It is very easy to put banners on them. Tutorial for small churches using the OBS service is there. TriTank put that out specifically for small churches without a lot of technical support. But here's the kind of thing you can do very easily. These are ones I did. Some of them I don't like. Like this one, the font isn't really great. I should have used a bolder font. It starts to fade in a couple places. But, it gets the point across. This is the one asking them to stay in touch. This font stinks. But anyway, this is the one asking for financial donations. No reason not to. This is the one that font really stinks. You're about communion when they're there physically present. And then this is the kind of person I am. This is the font for this particular slide. Shout at them. Thank you. Non-social media. I'm talking about newspaper, TV, those kind of things. You can get coverage. Ask me for the model press release, and I will actually be doing press releases. I will send to you the fill in the blank type things for a couple of the events coming up. The Ashes to Go, Ash Wednesday, Monday, Thursday. The key to remember as you're doing that, it's the editor who will decide if this story is written who matters the most. If they don't publish your story, it doesn't matter how good it was. And also, again, I submit 7 or 8. That might be 4 for 2 events for everyone covered. Don't give up. Or I might go 3 or 4 without getting coverage. It depends on what else is going on the day that arrives on the editor's desk. And for TV, it depends on what's going on the day of your event. Local weeklies are your best options. Lots of cities have local weeklies, or the neighborhood has a local weekly. Make sure to look in your grocery store. A lot of times they have the giveaways magazines, which are 90% ads, but they also have articles. Don't ignore TV. Don't ignore radio, although you want to be careful. You want to be only with stations you want to be associated with. And people say, well, nobody's listening. Well, if hundreds of people weren't listening, they wouldn't be on the air. And if you can send them a news release, just one more copy out, it takes you 0 effort to get it to them. Don't ignore the daily papers. They're all struggling to understand what their role is in the world. Many of them tried to go mainly with national and international stories, but CNN just blows them away. So now a lot of them are moving back to try to do more local stuff. And I think it's actually EDD, not EDDM. I meant to correct that. Postal Service, these are like the postal patron. They take something you put together, a card or whatever. In fact, something like this, and they just put one in each mailbox on a given delivery route. I said it cost me when I did this one about 80 cents a piece, but there's some things I could have done better, particularly around the printing, to cut the cost. So probably, I'm guessing you can get it in the order of 60 cents, and you may be able to get it less if you look around. I mentioned the banner, yard sign, posters before, that they need to be readable at 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. You can phrase it so it can be used next year. One thing you can do to save some money is you got a bunch of election signs going to go to waste in a couple months. Take the metal frames is half the cost of the sign. So pick them up, clean up your community, and use them over. The banners can be good. It says we're an active church, but make sure they hang right. I don't think anything looks worse than a banner that's drooping over and you can't really read it, and it just makes a very bad impression. This is my favorite firm. Wouldn't work in a city, but works great. Well, it might work in a city. Where this one was, they had their primary sign above and they put room for banners below. The banner stays up nice and solid with those 4x4s. All right, your Facebook page. We've been talking about the Facebook post. Now I'm going to change to the page itself. At this point, it's tier 2. They have come to this. So you have a little more time. Now, there's a couple really important things to notice. This is the absolute most important. We begin reading a page. Any page you're handed, you begin reading in the upper left-hand corner. That's who we are. That sentence you got, and you can actually put a lot more than they do, but you got basically one sentence there to grab their attention. And I think St. Joseph's in McDonough, Georgia has done a good job. Vibrant and loving parish. Okay, I'll read on. Now they do some good things here. They have a little short introduction to our church video here that is featured, so it stays up. No matter who gets here, that's what they're going to see first. They also have, and this changes weekly, their little schedule of events. And then you get down to the actual posts. Now, if you go back and look at that, again, imagine you've looked at this, and then you look at the tabs. I would submit to you that if you got questions about this church, this is the tab you're going to go to. I have questions about the church. Oh, I will click on the About tab. And the About tab for probably 80, 90% of churches looks like this. Nothing. I mean, it's like somebody walked up to you on the street and said, hey, I'm interested in your church. What can you tell me? And you turn and walk away from them. Now, again, don't start with your service times. That can be at the end. A good way to start is we are. And you might change it before you're done, but when you start to write it out, begin with we are and describe it in a way, your church, your community, your congregation, in a way that is intriguing. That'll make people want to stay in touch. Photos, again, most people will look to photos. So you want to do those. Make sure, if at all possible, they show something other than just a bunch of people standing around. Reviews is another one that's important. I don't know about you, but if I'm looking at a new business or something and it has some reviews, I look at them. Now, here's a church that had some reviews. It had a 4.6 rating, pretty good rating, 21 reviews. That's a fair number. Until you look a little bit, and I just copied this a short time ago. It was done 7 years ago. Haven't anything since then. I happen to know the priest is at least 2 back that they're talking about. Try to get a new review every month. Maybe during the vestry meeting, ask somebody to type out a review. Try to stay away from it only talking about being a friendly church. Every church in town is the friendliest church in town. Talk about your other ministries. Talk about the other reasons you exist. Talk about the other reasons God is glad you exist. Nothing I've said here as anything specifically about evangelism. It's all been on pre-evangelism. There's the Episcopal Church site. It has some really good resources. This would be basically once people start connecting with your church on a regular basis. Now, how do I involve them in that deep spiritual conversation? Remember, you're not going to do everything. I'm running long, so I will skip through that in a hurry. Your first priority is prayer, and it's not prayer they be changed. I believe we have failed. God has created everyone to want to be in connection with God. And the fact that such a large percentage of our nation does not want to be connected with God suggests to me we should have done a better job introducing God, opening the door. And so the prayer should be that we gain what we need to do our ministry well. Next week, we're going to focus on some of this. There's that registration form. If you haven't registered, please do so. It makes my job a little bit easier, and it makes sure you get everything. Finally, I want to talk about homework for this week, and start down at the bottom. Talk through these things and decide what it is you want to do, set up your schedules. But remember, the basic concepts we've gone over and we'll go over next week are important, even if you aren't doing that specific event. So don't close your ears. But create a follow-up system. Remember, I said it several times. You've wasted your time if you don't stay in touch. And then on Facebook, there's probably third priority. There's a couple things that you can do. That About tab, the 2 to 5 people team who will comment and share, the local groups. And when you get into the local groups, if you can find somebody to post to the groups, in other words, comment on somebody else's post so you're a friend and not just an advertiser, that can be very helpful. All right, I ran a couple minutes longer than I intended, but if you will unmute yourself, and we will take any discussion, questions, criticisms. Now, I know I threw a lot at you, but pick one that you want to ask more about.
Yeah, hi, Ken. I think one person from my group wants to know the next group will be meeting on the 17th, I believe, and then the 28th is the next time. Is that correct?
The 17th is the next one. The third one is the week after Ash Wednesday. I don't remember the exact date. And
Okay.
On that one, we will focus on Holy Week. I just decided it was better to let you focus on Ash Wednesday.
Okay. Ash Wednesday is the 14th. So is it the 21st or the 28th? We have you at the 28th.
Yeah, I'll send out a notice to make sure everybody gets it right.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
In fact, I think Lou, you told me I had it wrong on one of the mailings.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. You have such a wonderful way of putting all of this in, and some of the stuff is doable. And I think that it's the idea of pre-evangelism. But you led with the fact of what our purpose is to bring people into closer, deeper relationships with God. Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to work with Welcome and Inclusion because they're the perfect group to do this kind of pre-evangelism. And it is work. It is not simply just, doing some of the stuff you said and then letting it go. It really means being involved in it and learning some new skills. So I thank you for putting it out, and also with the idea that we don't have to do everything.
Yeah, that'll discourage you in a hurry.
Yeah, it will. It will.
What just happened?
Sorry?
I just lost it.
No, we can still see you.
We can still see you.
And hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh, weird. Alex, she was having something similar.
But I can hear.
I can hear, but I can't see. I could see, but now I can't see. I don't know what happened.
I think I have to restart my computer, and maybe that'll fix why the video is not working. Audio is working fine.
Well, the audio is more important.
Right. I didn't want to restart in the middle of your presentation. That would have been rude.
Well, I sent you the slides. And other than a couple typos I fixed, the slides you saw are the slides you got. So, and that I flew through this stuff. I know I did. So feel free to kind of leaf through the slides and make a list of questions and email them to me or whatever. And I'd be happy to talk about them in more detail. Pam, there she is.
Yeah. So I have a question. Or need some advice. So I'm the only one from our church on the seminar tonight. I don't know if anyone from our church was on the morning session.
Yeah, a couple were.
Couple were great. So my question was how to go about gathering a team to implement some of these concepts. We always have a pancake supper on Shrove Tuesday, so that would be a perfect time to try and broaden our reach. Any suggestions about how to get a team together that would be on the same page to promote that event?
And I think your idea about Shrove Tuesday is perfect. And I think the best way to, because that you're not asking them to get involved in something for the rest of their lives. If you ask them to become a member of a committee, that feels like I'm committing my life. Will you help us get ready for Shrove Tuesday? Is a very compressed time, and hopefully then they'll continue. What I would do, and I'd be happy to help you, is actually put together a list of activities. What are you asking them to do? And then approach people and say, will you do this or this? Will you, that kind of thing. So I find people react better to very specific, limited requests. You ask me to serve on a committee and I go running because I know, how it is in churches. You get on a committee and you're there till you die. But very, very, very specific. Will you, let's see, would you be the person in charge of making sure everybody is offered a contact card that night and then collecting them? That nice, simple, direct, it's going to take you I'm asking you for about 2 hours of your time, that kind of thing. So we can make a list of those kind of things. Now, you do want to have some kind of overarching organizational committee.
Right.
That's the slightly harder thing to get, but I think you've got some people that are interested, that we can pull that together.
Can you tell me who from our church was in the seminar this morning?
Father Bruce was, Sam was,
Katie Heyer.
Somebody else was too.
Katie Heyer.
Yes.
Katie.
I'm pretty sure. I'm looking at my real quick. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I thought somebody else started. Yeah, Kathy.
Yeah. Hi, I'm from Holy Family in New Jersey, and I just wanted to give a testimony. We've been working with Ken for the last 2 years, and using a lot of his techniques, we have raised our visibility in the community. We do get guests. It takes a while, but a lot of it's just like public relations, just getting the community to get to know you. And our church is smack dab in the middle of a residential area, so it has its advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, they've got several disadvantages, but they're really working well. Holy Family in Laurel Springs, New Jersey is a good one to friend. So you'll see what they do. They do a lot of good things. One of the things I would suggest, and I'll later on send out a list on this, but help each other. Help each other. You got a number of different churches here. Friend a couple of the other churches and comment and share on their stuff. All right. That you can build this comment and share team just within this panel of names. You can make, I talked about the reviews. Several churches have reviews from me that I have never visited them, but they got a 5, and most churches, if they have 10 reviews, that's a lot. So just adding a couple more, and I'm not dishonest. I say things like, they sound like a very exciting group of people. Yeah.
Ken, I liked your idea of listing out the jobs that would be needed. And a lot of times if you go out and you find a couple of people to do the least difficult jobs, then you can go to the organizers, creators, and say, listen, I already have some folks for you to work with. They're ready to go. Would you mind being the the person who kind of holds it all together. Especially in a small congregation, if you can avoid meetings, I think that makes sometimes a thriftier use of your lay leadership time.
And, I'm a real believer in Paul's teaching about the gifts of the Spirit, and that we don't think about that enough. And if you think about the types of gifts most churches use, you got organization, you got teaching, but how many of us have asked who has the gift of evangelism? And I don't mean going and standing on the corner. I mean just an interest in reaching out to people. So one of the things I would definitely do is reach out to those people who have never been involved in this other stuff, because organization might drive them, organizing something might drive them crazy, but writing an intriguing post might be exactly within their skill set. Teachers, particularly anybody who's ever been involved in media, newspaper reporters, editors, those kind of people, they have skills we need. So let's get them. Let's recruit them. Of course, if you get an editor, they'll hate what I write because I never worry about grammar, but that's okay.
Yeah, I would like to give my testimony. No one else is here from St. George's Episcopal in Carmichael, so I'm not a priest or a deacon, but I'm a liaison person. So we had this music festival for Christmas. It was called Christmas Joy. We even used a karaoke, but the idea was yours to include the secular music along with the Christmas carols. We never done it before, so we did it on a Saturday, and there were many, well, not many, but for us, it's considerable amount of guests, and some people started to follow us on Facebook, so it was very successful, and Father Ray was very grateful. And the second thing was the Blue Christmas. Again, you inspired us, and we tried to do it, and we did it online. I wish we could do it in person, but not this year. So it was also very, very successful. So thank you.
Great.
The more I attend your sessions, the more ideas we get. So I think you are a blessing of God for us. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I didn't take time to touch on this, but think about the millions of dollars a company spends, and let's assume the company knows what it's doing. Companies spend on naming a ballpark or a football game. The Duke Mayonnaise football game did not expect people to run out and buy Duke mayonnaise during halftime. It was an awareness thing. Well, a lot of what we do is awareness. The Blue Christmas in particular, I think, is an awareness thing. It says to the community at large, we care about you. We care about the fact you might be in grief. We care about, your attitude at this time of year. Now, even if they don't show up, we've made a good impression. And an awful lot of what we do is that kind of thing. It's awareness type of thing. That's why I say it's unfortunate. There's always somebody who says, how come our pews aren't full? We spent $50 on ads. Well, you're going to have to do a lot more than that.
Can I maybe dovetail off of that? One of the things I started talking with the people from Fresh Expressions in the USA, and they're primarily involved in dinner church. And she said something that came up, which was the idea about the sign. And she said, if you saw a sign that said, come to the Two Saints Dinner Church, would you go? You probably wouldn't go because you don't know those people. Unless you've reached out and made yourself known and shared a little bit about who you are, then all the other effort is a waste. And so before you even go to the idea of dinner church, it's doing this pre-evangelism and getting people to know who we are. Because we're in downtown, we're 2 blocks from City Hall. Granted, there are a number of apartment buildings, but how do we get across that threshold? Because they're all secure buildings. So we are in a residential neighborhood of sorts. And 2 new buildings are going up behind the church, as a matter of fact. So we have a pool of people to draw from for them to get to know us.
When those new buildings start to occupy, I would touch base with the management firm. Now, it's probably a 1 in 5 chance they'll go along with you, but it's 1 in 5. And ask them, would they be willing to hand their new residents our brochure? Make them aware of something in the neighborhood. Like, most will say no, but hey, the answer is no until I ask.
Right.
And, as far as that dinner church, Kathy's church does a Friday lunch. Was it first Friday of the month? If I remember right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And it's built over time. It takes time. Now she has a new person. Kathy, I think you have a new person just about every time, don't you?
Yes.
It's become a community thing, but it took a lot of time to get there.
Right. And we just added, so we've been doing it for several years. And as of August, we just added a service, an optional healing service that right there in the parish hall, like after the lunch, anybody who wants to stay for the service can. So.
Thank you for using that phrase. In my opinion, the most underutilized outreach avenue we have as a church is our healing service. People want that. And someday I'll do a video just on that. But the challenge is getting across to people, we do a healing service. It's not what they're used to seeing on TV. It's not, heal, and somebody falls down on the ground. So finding words to get that across. But I think our healing service is one, well, begin with, I love it, from a spiritual point of view. But I think it's one of the great underused tools we have.